do our intro so we can give Marilee her full time here. So I'm excited to introduce Marilee. She had been reached out by Kim Hume, one of our employees who could not be here, and she's super devastated about it, and just talks about how genuine Marilee is, and she's seen her speak at Time Out for Women, and reached out and says, I want to be your friend. And so Kim takes that very seriously, and they are Facebook friends, and she reached out to her, and we're so grateful to have her here. We're just going to read a little bit on her bio. On the back it says, she loves life and loves every season of life, especially this one. She enjoys hanging out with her hubby, 4 sons, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren. Is there more grandchildren now? Or are you?
No.
Oh. Too bad. She's trying. So she likes discussing politics. She is an estate planning attorney, so she's got a lot of education behind her. Law practice covers Utah and California. She's a professional lecturer and speaks all over the country. Some of the things I read about her is that she actually has spoke with prison inmates, right? Have you gone in?
My favorite. That's my favorite venue.
Isn't that interesting to go into the prisons?
Speaking again in prison about another week.
So you guys are in for a real treat, so we're excited to have her.
Because y'all look like convicts.
Exactly. She's done BYU Education Week, Time Out for Women. I mentioned that before. She loves to travel, meet people all over the world. I know she's introduced herself to several of you this today. And I have some books that we're going to give away at the end of her discussion that she has signed herself. I personally own Strangling Your Husband Is Not an Option, and I've read it, and it's very helpful. So just so you know, she's definitely got some insight for us all. Her perfect day is camping in a tent, reading a good book, taking a perfect hike, and eating free food. Did you get your free food?
I'm working. I told you to stick the lunch over there.
We're going to take care of that part today. So she's an author of several books. I mentioned one of them, including The Parenting Breakthrough, Strangling Your Husband Is Not an Option, In Trying Times, Keep Trying. We did give that one away as a giveaway before the event. And then, Will My Child Be Ready for Missionary Prep for Moms, and When I'm a Missionary. Her and her husband, Steve, they actually live in Lehi, Utah, and she said the drive was beautiful today. So, everybody, Marilee Boyack.
This reminds me of one of those stages. Oh, did I lose myself? Hang on. Is it being out there? Yeah. This is kind of one of those, old burlesque stages. I'm just saying, it's just the young ones are, what's a burlesque? Okay, sorry. How are you? You been having a good day? Yeah, you've just been soaking it in. This is my idea of fun, is getting together, supporting one another, and I love learning. Don't you love learning? I love learning. Tell me something new. I'm a happy clam. And frankly, I'll do anything to avoid cooking, so going to day-long seminars is like right up my alley, So I enjoy that. It was a beautiful drive up here. I was like, I'm going to Montpelier. Where is it? Had to look on the map to find it. Golly, it's beautiful up here. What a well-kept secret, right? I'm not supposed to tell anybody, am I? All right, I'll keep it quiet, but just a beautiful, beautiful area. And I can just tell from the warmth of the people that I met that there's good feeling here. Good feeling here. We're going to talk about being a hamster today. How many of you feel like a hamster from time to time, running in a wheel? Do you feel that way? Yeah. Hello, poster child, right? I think as women, we feel that way all the time. And I want to share with you some voices of women that perhaps reflect the way you feel as well. These women's voices, let's listen to them. I know I need to exercise, but with the kids and carpool and work, I just don't have time. I would love to have more quality time with my kids and my grandchildren, but how can I squeeze it in on top of everything else? I would love to have time at dinner where we sit down, but mine's more like a buffet. Every year, my pace of my life seems to get faster and faster. I feel like a hamster in a wheel. My prayers feel rushed and shallow, and I just don't feel the connection that I used to. I remember dinner time growing with my family growing up. We had dinner at 6. Did you? My mom always had dinner on the table at 6. But now mine's more like a drive-through with the family rotating through the kitchen. I'm tired all the time. They tell me I'm supposed to have 8 hours of sleep and I just laugh. I don't know anybody that has 8 hours of sleep. How do you do that? You know, this has been one of the cruel jokes of growing older. Okay? When you had babies, you didn't sleep, right? At all. But no one told me that in menopause you don't sleep either. It's very rude.
Yeah, right.
Seriously rude. No one warned me. I'm doing better now. I'm so busy. I don't have time for that. Can you hear your voice in these voices? Do these express some of the feelings that you have? Do you feel like a hamster in a wheel, just running, and not getting anywhere a lot of times? We're going to talk today about things that affect the way we manage the time in our lives and how we manage our lives overall, and perhaps how we can make some better choices along the way. These are pictures that depict each of us. This is me over here. You're drowning in paper. Each of us have obligations and things that we're facing, right? Each of us have burdens that we carry. Each of us have things that we need to take care of. If there's only one thing you learned today, that is this. Busy is not a matter of time. It's a matter of choice. Say that together. It's afternoon. We got to say a lot of stuff together to keep you awake. Busy is not a matter of time, it's a matter of choice. Okay? And so if you can remember one thing, that's it. And we're going to expound on this, but I want you to remember, it's a choice. It's a choice that each of us makes. I want to read a wonderful rendition a woman wrote about her perception of being busy and about being in a hurry. How many of you are always in a hurry? Own it. Own it. Yes. I remember one time I was standing at the door of the van, and I have 4 sons. And I kept saying, hurry, 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 we gotta get in the car, we gotta get in the car. And finally my son said, Mom, what are we hurrying for? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I just was so programmed that I was always hurry, hurry, hurry. Hurry around the children, hurry around the family all the time. We have a woman in our church youth group, and she's always saying to the children, hurry! And then she's always apologizing, I'm sorry, we're not in a hurry. But we kind of have that mindset. So this woman wrote about it beautifully. She said, my mother used to wash our clothes in a wringer washer. How many of you know what a wringer washer is? Okay. In many groups I have to define what that is. And then hang them up on the line. As she pinned up each garment, she said, she thought about the child it belonged to. She never wanted a dryer, even after she could afford one, because it would take this from her, this quiet contemplation. I'm just as busy or busier than my mother is, with my job and kids and my projects. But it's a different kind of busyness, a faster, jerkier one, getting one task over and then going on to the next. 30 years after I watched my mother hang out the wash, I carry the laundry to the basement and toss in the clothes in the dryer, switching them from washer to dryer quickly, drying the family clothes, but not deriving as much enjoyment from it. I know I'm supposed to quit charging around and stop and smell the roses, but I get caught up like a swimmer in a pool full of floating junk at what's coming at me. I call the dentist for an appointment, go to lunch, meet deadlines, throw a load in the washer, and call back a friend and think later that I must have sounded rushed and unfriendly when I didn't feel that way at all. I fax the mail, scissor open instant meals, answer the phone while wiping off the breakfast table. I do not spend a meditative moment really tasting the blackberry jam or gazing at the faces of my sleeping children or stepping out to the porch to feel the rain on my face. Or if I do it quickly, checking it off the list. Gazed at sleeping children, check. Lifted face to rain, check. Stop and smell the roses tomorrow. And I'm not alone. Everybody's life has speeded up. People used to spend months lolling on ocean liners, just getting to Europe, or 3 or 4 hours in a carriage smelling the green fields while getting to town. Now we prowl supermarket aisles. Actually, now we order online and walk over or drive over and have Walmart just loaded in. It's my husband's taking over the shopping because it's nerdly now. It's awesome. But I digress. All right, back to it. She said, We're in search of minute meals, we send clippings to friends instead of letters. We go to the manicurist and wear jogging clothes so that we can jog during the 20 minutes while we let our nails dry. One woman told me I live by lists, scribbled notes on little yellow Post-its, stuck around my house and even in my car. My home is always messy. The clean laundry is always heaped in a ping pong table waiting to be folded. The yard is filled with weeds, and I make dinner quickly and leave it in the kitchen counter for my children and husband to eat whenever they come home and pass through. And then she says those awesome, insightful words. I wonder what I'm hurrying for. Where in all this hurry do we find the quiet satisfaction in daily life that we once took for granted? When do you stop doing and start being? What is your version of hanging out to wash? So each of us has this choice that we make. Each of us has the choice of whether or not we're going to live at a frenetic pace and be so busy that we don't stop and have enjoyment in our lives or not. Each of us has 24 hours. How many of you have 26? Admit it. She looks like she does. You think there are a few people do, don't you? Your mother-in-law? Well, obviously. All right, your neighbor down the street that is walking perfection. But all of us have the same amount of time. Isn't that interesting? God was pretty fair. He said all of you get the same amount of time. You get 24/7. Nobody else gets anything different. All right, so, are you trying to film me? Good luck with that, girlfriend.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I'll stay over here. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm a robot.
I'll just stand.
She's like, oh, she moved. Each of us has the same amount of time, and each of us bears that same responsibility, that same choice with what we're going to do with it. You choose whether or not you exercise. You choose whether or not you have a lovely family dinner. You choose whether or not you accomplish your own goals. You choose whether or not you're going to have prayers that are not rushed. Each of us has those choices that we have in our lives that we control completely. You completely control how you spend your time, not your kids or grandkids or your spouse or your boss. You do. Okay? You control that completely. Now, all your current use of time began with your choices. You may have chosen to have 12 kids. And if you did, boy, that impacts your time, doesn't it? You may have chosen to work full time. That impacts your time, big time. Each of the things that we do in our lives began with choices that we made. You can choose also not to. Okay? Say that together. I choose not to. I choose not to. They can't really do that with the kids, dang it. and maybe not even your job, and hopefully not your spouse. But there are a lot of things in your life that you are doing that you can choose not to. Or you can choose to change. Or you can choose to change other choices because you want to abide by good choices that you've already made. See this? Each of these things are under your control. So never again can you say, I'm too busy. Instead, you're saying, I choose not to. Now, you got to be a little diplomatic with this, don't you? Your friend says, would you like to go out to lunch? You say, I choose not to. That's rude. So we got to think of some ways to say, I choose not to, that are a little more palatable. And I'm going to share with you my hidden secret. I say, oh, I'm so sorry, I have an appointment. Okay? Mm-hmm. They don't know that the appointment is with my pillow. I'll take it. Or to go have a facial at the beauty college. All right? I have an appointment. Doesn't that sound official? Oh, I'm so sorry, I have another commitment. Of course, now you can't use it with each other from now on. They're going to have to say, oh, sure, I was at the same lecture you were. I learned the same thing. But you're choosing not to. And that's totally okay. We just need to come up with language that says, I choose not to, in a rather sensitive and delicate way. If you can take responsibility for these choices, your life will profoundly change. Amen and amen and amen. If you can just take responsibility instead of playing the victim of, all these things just happened to me, I had no control, all these children just materialized out of nowhere, I don't know what happened, I just got this job, I don't know what happened, man, sorry, it doesn't work that way. So if we can take responsibility for the job that we have, for the commitments we have, for the size of the house that we have, for as much crap in our house as we have and we decide to dust. I realized when I staged my house when we sold and left California that if I had less, I had to dust less. It was an epiphany. Absolute epiphany. Never again will you say I'm too busy, because that is not accurate, okay? Think about that. You can never again say those words. Because if you say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm too busy, you're going to hear me nagging you. You're going to hear this creepy little voice in your head that says, nope, sorry. The real thing is you're choosing not to. Now, a lot of you, when you thought about hamster in a wheel and you thought about this topic, we're hoping you would get, you type A's out there, you know who you are, Owen. And you were hoping you would get a lot of time management tips. I'm only going to give you one today to satisfy you list makers out there, okay? And this really is about the only one that I use in my life, because you only need one. Once you learn this one, you don't even need any others. This was taught to me by my daddy. There's my daddy. He's on the other side now, partying it up. Heaven help him, because he's forced to be reckoned with. And this is the Roger John Brown Jr. surefire tip to managing your time and being incredibly successful in life. And here's how it works. You do your gotta-dos first. Then you do your should-dos next. And then you sprinkle in your could-dos. Now this is weird, and this is the way my daddy talked, okay? He just liked talking funky like this. So what are your gotta-dos? When you're looking at your day, can I move a little bit?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm getting a little claustrophobic over in the corner. All right. When you are thinking about, let's think about tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Sunday? Say Saturday? I'm kind of losing it. All right, tomorrow's Sunday. Think about your gotta-dos. Something that you have to do tomorrow. Okay? That you literally cannot do it the next day. It cannot be done on Monday. It must be done tomorrow. Think about what those things are. Tomorrow's Sunday, so some of you, I know, are in the medical industry, so some of you may need to go to work tomorrow, right? Some of you may, and that's a gotta do. You can't just say, I'm so sorry, I changed my mind. That's a gotta do. So you gotta go to work, okay? Some of you have to go to work tomorrow. Some of you, your gotta do is you go to church tomorrow, okay? And so that may be a gotta do. For me, tomorrow is family dinner. My son came down from Portland, Oregon for the weekend at the last minute, so I've got to do family dinner, which is traumatic, okay? I'm just saying. It's a little traumatic. That whole cooking thing, very traumatic. So think about your gotta do for the day, okay? Think about your gotta do. These are things like, I have to pay my property taxes. I learned that the hard way. If you do those the day after, you pay the stinking penalty of $150, right? And so that's a gotta do. It is something that absolutely has to be done that day, all right? I've been through a lot of medical stuff, and so a lot of my medical tests had to be done on a certain day. So gotta-dos are very simple, very short. You probably will only have a maximum of 2 to 3 of those a day. Maximum, okay? They're that life-threatening, shall we say? They must be done. I do one gotta-do every day that I'll share with you. It's called STEP. I take my first step every day. Scriptures, thanks, exercise, and prayer. And so in the morning, my one gotta-do is to take my first step. Scriptures, thanks, exercise, and prayer. And I often kind of combine the two. I'll do a prayer walk, or I'll go do speed walking and pray at the same time, because I like to multitask. And I get to pray longer than 5 minutes, which I like. And I'm not combining my thanks. So see, I've got it all going, and then maybe I'll listen to my scripture on the way back and totally multitask the whole thing. But you can do it whatever way you want. But there are certain things that you have to do each day. People say, how do I get so much done in my life? That's how. By putting that step as a priority every single day of my life. Every single day. All right. Then the next step is to do your should-dos. What are some should-dos that you need to do tomorrow? Go ahead and shout them out to me. What are some should-dos?
Wash the dishes.
Wash the dishes. See, to me that's a could-do. No, I'm just kidding. All right, wash the dishes. What else? Read a book. That's actually down to a could-do, a should-do. Unless you're reading something perhaps for work or something important like that.
Family home evening.
Family home evening, okay? That's a should-do. You do yours on Sunday. That's a should-do.
Laundry.
Laundry, okay? That's a should-do, all right? And so this is your list of should-dos. What are some could-dos that you could do? Read a book. What else? Take a nap. I take Sundays seriously. So take a nap. Oh, I did too far, didn't I? Okay. What else could you do? Come on, think faster. Go for a walk. Lovely day, yeah. Call a friend.
Travel.
Travel. Eat some ice cream. Okay. Watch a TV show. Eat chocolate. Chocolate is permanently on my could-do list. All right, so do you see then how you manage each day? So for example, you're going to go and you're going to hit your gotta do each day. So each day you're going to focus all your intensity and your energy on getting that gotta do done. And then you can move on to the should do's and sprinkle in could do's every day. There was a woman once that her husband came home and the house was a wreck. Oh my gosh, the house was just a disaster. Outside kids were swinging from the trees. There were toys everywhere, bicycles everywhere. There were all these random children that didn't even belong to him everywhere. There was food strewn. He goes in and the house is just chaotic. Oh my gosh. The kitchen's just a mess and laundry's everywhere. And finally he makes his way back to the bedroom. And he finds his young wife in bed, knees propped up, reading a book. And he said, "Honey, what happened?" And she said, "You know how every day you come home and ask what I did today? Today I did not." And so that's how our lives run, but we can take control with this. Our gotta do's first. Now some days you're going to hit a gotta do that's really hard. I'm in the middle of writing my 13th book right now, and it's really hard. And I can tell I'm avoiding it because I'm also working on my genealogy. And I think, yep, you're really avoiding. And so sometimes don't we avoid those gotta do's? We kind of, because they're hard, and they've been on our list for a while. But the problem with most people is they mix up this list. And then they dink around, and they dink around, and they dink around. And they dinky, dinky, dink all day long. They just dink, dink, dink. And then the next day they go, "Oh man, I had that gotta do, whoops." Or I had that should do, whoops. And they have on their laundry list of things to do, empty the dishwasher is the same as pay my property tax bill, which is the same as renew the registration on my car, which is the same as going and visiting my dying mother, which is the same as doing the laundry. Do you see that? Don't we do that? That we combine our list too much and we don't prioritize. And this really impacts how badly our time is managed in our lives. Just learning this technique will make you, learning any time-saving technique will make you an excellent mudslinger. I want you to think about this car stuck in the mud. If I gave this car several techniques to get out of this mud and to sling faster and faster, he would still be slinging mud, wouldn't he? So the important part of learning how to manage our hamster-like lives is to realize that sometimes we need to stop and not only learn technique, but to examine the mud that we are in. To examine what we are using in our time. You'll be an efficient mudslinger. You may be able to sling more mud than anyone you know, but you'll still be slinging mud. So we need to stop and take a look at what we are doing with our lives. I remember one time I was on my prayer walk and I was thinking about my time. I love community service, and so I was doing lots and lots of community service. I belonged to all kinds of things. I was on the city council. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And I was very, very, very busy. And I remember asking the question, what's the most meaningful thing that I can do with my time? And I realized that I could, at that point, attend the temple weekly because my children were older. But that I was still only going monthly because I was doing all this other good stuff. And so that became a priority for me. I remember I was in the Rotary Club eating lunch out, which was fabulous, but I was eating lunch out with the Rotary Club every week, and I thought, I would hate to get to the hereafter and say, lunch out was really important. Not that the Rotary isn't fabulous and are doing wonderful things, but I realized that I needed to shift my time mix and focus more on doing good and meaningful things with my life. Richard Scott said, "Don't let small things crowd out that which is essential." Now, let's talk about 5 principles, as it were, of life management and time management, okay? And we're going to talk about those things that will help you get control of the hamster feelings and the pace of your life as well. The first one is to de-junk your life. Okay, how many of you are pack rats? Own it. Oh, we got a lot. All right. How many of you have clothes that don't fit? Own it! How many of you have things from the prior millennium that you no longer use? Okay. So we're going to talk now about de-junking your life, all right? It's almost as fun as de-junking all your stuff, which I enjoy thoroughly. My motto is, you know, when you say, but I might need it someday, my motto is, they need it now. But de-junking your time, now you're going to have a total guilt trip, I'm so sorry, is I'm going to give you some powerful questions throughout this that you can ask. Knowing what I know now, would I choose this again? Very important question. You know, it's interesting. We keep aging and the circumstances of our life change with our jobs and our family and the community things that we do, but we just hang on to stuff because I've always served in the Rotary Club, right? And I've always been the president of PTA, and I've always, you know, and we just hold on to stuff and we never let it go. Ask this question. Knowing what I know now, would I choose this again? I want you to think about that. Knowing what I know now, would I choose this again? Would I choose to do a particular volunteer service? Carpool was always a nemesis for me. Would I choose to volunteer to do that much carpooling? And I remember asking this question years ago and going, oh, heck no, and rearranging that. Would I choose this particular job I'm in right now? Or would you choose a different job that's perhaps less stressful or has less time involved? Knowing what I know now, would I choose to have this big of a house again, right? Would I choose to volunteer? Oh my gosh, there's a woman in my ward that cooks dinner for her extended family every week. Shoot me now. I do it once a month and I can barely handle it. And knowing what I know now, would I choose this again? And so every year we reevaluate as a family, even the family events that we have planned through the year. And we ask this question, knowing what we know now, would we choose this same schedule of events again? And sometimes we adjust that. Isn't that a powerful question? Allows you to de-jump. Also learn to say, so what? Let's say that together. It's so liberating. So what? Say it again with a little sarcasm. So what? All right. Twist your head a little. Come on, loosen up. Try it again. So what?
So what?
All right. So what? This is letting go of the parking boot of your life, okay? You have a parking boot still hanging on your life. Okay? You didn't graduate from college.
So what? So what?
You're not a size 6 anymore.
So what?
The kids really want you to pay all their bills.
So what?
The adult kids want to continue living in your basement.
So what?
Looking at everything we do, and this, I know it's a little bit sarcastic, but it helps minimize the claim that that has in your life. It's very, very liberating. To look at the regrets of your past. So you got divorced. So what? We're moving forward. Moving forward in our lives. I think that you know, starting each new day, starting each new week, starting each new month, fresh start, ladies. Fresh start to be able to say, so what? I'm moving forward with my life. What commitments would you change or eliminate in your life? I want you to think about that for a second. Look at the commitments that you've made in your life. Which ones would you change or eliminate? Think about that for a second. You may eliminate some of the things that you've added in because other people expected you to help them and you've added those into your life and you can eliminate them. Or others you may just revise and change up a little bit. Very important question. What relationships need trimming? I was diagnosed with breast cancer about 8.5 years ago. And I'll never forget, I told this woman at church that I'd been diagnosed. And I'll never forget her response. I can't believe this. You and my cousin in 1 week. What are you guys doing to me? I just can't believe this. Yeah, and I just sat there and went, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was all about you. Yeah, that relationship needed trimming. Now, later, a few years later, I realized that she had Asperger's. She had a mild form of autism that caused her to be socially awkward. And so I was a little more forgiving in my once I realized that. But at the time, I thought, I cannot deal with the pain that that interaction will bring to me. I remember another woman who found out I had breast cancer and then began to nag me. Every event we would go to, she'd say, should you eat that? Are you sure you should eat that? You have cancer. Bye-bye. I needed to trim that relationship. Do you see that? So I want you to look at it. I'll tell you, when I was going through such significant health challenges, I looked at all the people in my life and decided anybody who was toxic got trimmed. Because I could no longer bring toxic negativity into my life. Now, trimmed, you may not, some you will eliminate. You know, I looked at some relationships, I was in politics, remember? And some of those toxic relationships needed eliminated, gone, too toxic. But some just need trimming or revising or backing off. You know, these two ladies at church, I didn't, avoid them like the plague. I just backed off, right? Because I needed to be able to heal without their toxic interaction. So that's another interesting, even within family. I have, and I notice this right now, I have two sons that really, really desperately want to be married. And they're trying very hard to be married, and it is taking much longer than they anticipated. It kills me. It's very painful for me to watch them be lonely. And sometimes I have to literally back up a little bit and not call them all the time or check on them all the time, but back up a little bit so that it doesn't become overwhelming to me or to them with mommy checking on them all the time. Does that make sense? So we're going to also look at relationships that need trimming or revising or adjusting. Next, we're going to ask, what part of the past can I let go? Abuse, wayward child, financial difficulty in your past. We've been through many unemployments with my husband's work. What other, health challenge that you had? What part of the past can you let go? Interesting analysis on this one. When you find yourself telling the same story over and over again from your past, that means it is eating your future and your present. Is your big story always about, well, I had this, or I did that, or that happened to me? That is eating at you. Do you see that? Interesting question then. What part of the past can I let go? How can I declutter my calendar? Look at your calendar. Mine's, I do a Google Calendar, so it's all in colors, which I dearly love. But I look at my calendar, and if there isn't enough white space, I'll start canceling and rearranging things. And I literally have Wednesday afternoon is my mental health. And I have on there mental health time, where I clear out part of the week so that it isn't so overwhelming. Next D is dream. What is your grand passion? I want you to think about this for a second. In fact, I brought with me my 100 dreams list. Many, many years ago, I sat down and wrote down 100 dreams. Actually, I'm only up to about 90. I have 10 more that I'm still trying to create. And I decided to save that for the future to create some more. And so I've written my 100 dreams list. Super awesome, fun thing to do. I got on Facebook and asked everybody, what's your dreams? To see if there were any that I wanted to add to my own. I've had everything from flying a hot air balloon to visit all 50 states, which I've done. I want to stick my toe in all the oceans, and I think I'm up to 3 or 4 on that. I like to memorize certain things. So what I'm working on this year is indoor skydiving. Has anybody done that? I totally want to do that because I figured I can't die. So I'm all over it. I want to speak to 5,000 people at once. I've only spoken to 4,500. And so if you get 5,000 people, just please invite me back up. Okay, I want to be debt-free. I want to do that train ride across North America. What do you want to do? Think about the dreams that you have in your life. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I want you to start your own dreams list. And for those of you that have children over the age of about 10, start them on their own. It's interesting how each one's different. My one son is very physical. He loves sports and outdoorsy things, and so his are like, climb this mountain and snowboard here. Mine don't have that in there, Mine are very cerebral, like read these 50 books and, do this kind of thing. I have travel on my list. How many of you have travel on your list? Yeah, hello. Totally. I plan on doing much more travel. My husband and I are racing continents now. We both had go to 50 states on our list, And I got a time out. Alaska was my last state. And I've been to all others. And my husband only had South Dakota left. And we were racing. And so I made him promise me. He said, I have a trip to Denver when you're going to Alaska. And I said, you promise me I get to have Alaska and I get to be first. Because it was the 50th state, it was their 50th anniversary, and I turned 50 that year. It was awesome! I get off the airplane, I look at my phone, and here's a picture of my husband at the state line of South Dakota going, man, that butt. How rude was that? So then he got 2 tickets the next 2 days in 2 different states. I was like, yes, got smoted. So I want you to think about, what are your dreams? Your dreams may be very different. I remember my mother wanted to play the piano. She took piano lessons at the age of 65. My dad wanted to play the organ. He took organ lessons at 75. My mother wanted to tap dance. I'll never forget her standing on the table in the store, putting on a pair of tap shoes and starting to tap dance at the age of 80. It was a little awkward, but it was cool. So what dreams do you have? So often we get so stuck in our daily grind that we forget to think about the dreams that we have, that we want to have a part of our life. The next D is dare. I dare you to try something new. I dare you to take a risk. I dare you. So often we get set in our lives, and I know here in Montpelier, you can get set in your routine of what you do day after day after day, and we don't try risky new things. Especially as we get older, that risk sounds a little scary, doesn't it? Like, I might break my hip. I don't want to try rollerblading, and we got to be careful. No. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is from Mark Twain. He says, why not go out on a limb? That's where all the fruit is. I love that. So what would you dare to try? I want to share with you a few stories. When I was 7 years old, we were at Disneyland. And the whole family was there, and I wanted to, desperately wanted to go on the Matterhorn. How many of you have been on the Matterhorn? It's a real jerky little ride, you know, and it's round and round in the mountain. And so I wanted to go, and no one would go with me. And finally, my very well-fed grandmother pipes up and says, I'll go with you. I'm like, what? You? I don't think she'd been on a scary ride all day. And luckily, I was very skinny. Because we got in that thing and we crammed in there with my very well-fed grandmother, and I was kind of plastered. And we go in and the ride starts, and my grandma begins to scream. And my grandma, she was about 72 at the time, which back then was old. And she screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed through the whole thing. And I am just sitting there crying because I was so happy. I was so happy that I had a brave grandma who would go on that. That is my favorite memory. I mean, let me tell you, if you saw my grandma, never in a million years on Matterhorn, I'm just saying. And, you know, crochet, yes. And I was so proud of her for taking a dare and a risk that day. It is my very, very favorite memory. My sister had a midlife crisis at about the age of 50. She'd been through 4 divorces. And it was 50 and was kind of starting to feel age creeping on. So my sister decided to set a goal of running a marathon. Is it raining?
That's hail. That sounds like hail, almost.
Well, it better improve by the time we leave. I'm just saying. And so my sister decides to run a marathon. So she joins a group of running ladies that were in their 60s. And she began to run. My sister now has run dozens and dozens. She's 65. And she runs several marathons every year. I cheer for her. Running a marathon is so not on my list. But it was on hers. And it is wonderful to see her take that risk. Every year, year after year after year. I remember when my dad turned 45, he had a bit of a midlife crisis and decided to take up new hobbies. And so that year he decided to take up skiing. And so my mother, bless her heart, was game. We grew up in Detroit. And so she said, okay, I'll start skiing with you. And so I remember us going skiing together and learning how to ski as a family, the whole family. And I was so impressed that my parents were gutsy enough to start this risky sport at an older age. Until the day when my mother was going on the rope tow. And we were going up on the bunny hill because we were still little children learning how. And my mother's going up the rope tow, and somehow the rope tow got between her legs. And she's going up the rope tow, and we're screaming, Mother! She's about to be severed in two. And we're just screaming, fall over, fall over. And Mom's like, huh? destruction, she laid down and didn't ski anymore. That was it. Her life was done. From then on, she was in charge of the lodge. All right. Remember that if we don't take risks in our lives, we are in a rut. Recycled, unimaginative thinking. Boring, 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 boring. So we want to try new things. Another principle of life management is to distill. How many of you use distilled water, right? It's been released of its impurities. And I want you to think of your life as holding on to your impurities. Look at it carefully. Look at it intentionally. And eliminate the impurities. Eliminate the waste. Eliminate, and I love this one, everybody else's expectations. Right? Big one. But you've always put up all 300 nativity sets at Christmas. But you've always done tie-dye t-shirts for all 300 relatives for every, family reunion. Let go of everybody else's expectations. It's rather liberating, and you can use every birthday. I'm 59 now, you say I'm 59. I'm letting go of more stuff. Isn't it fabulous? This year, my phone, I changed my message on my phone. It says, I'm 59 and looking fine. Right? And so we're going to look at how we can distill our lives. How we can just eliminate all these things that no longer belong. I told you that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was diagnosed about 8.5 years ago. At the time, I was serving as, I think a lot of you are LDS, or at least understand the lingo. I was serving as Relief Society president, which was the head of the women's organization. I was running for re-election. I served in the city council. I was traveling all over the country. I was writing another book. And I also lived in Southern California, and they had asked me to be the regional coordinator for Proposition 8, the traditional marriage. And so I was leading thousands of people in fighting Proposition 8. I was doing all this when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I have to tell you, and we had no family history whatsoever, so it did come as a complete shock. My entire family died of old age. And so when I was diagnosed, I remember my entire life coming to a screeching halt. And I remember thinking, what really matters? What truly, truly matters? And I began to, as you can imagine, distill my life, to declutter and de-junk my life. You know your life is out of control when they just hand you the appointment card. And I'm like, oh no, let me check my calendar. They said, we don't work that way, honey. You fit us in. We don't fit you in. And I thought, oh my word, for a control freak? I was like, oh my gosh, my life is on my own. But I remember asking some really deep, as you can imagine, deep questions at the time. I was not sure if I was going to live. My life I began to think of the word precious. And that's a wonderful word to think of when you're looking at your life. What was precious to me? My faith, my family, my friends, my future. That was what was precious to me. Your list may be different. What is precious to you? And I realized that I had been spending lots and lots of time. You just heard my lovely to-do list, and that was probably only half of it. I had been spending all this time on things that were not as precious to me as these. And I began to reevaluate what was important. And this was it, very short list. I remember when I approached Christmas, I do have 172 nativity sets from all over the world. I'm a collector. And I remember approaching Christmas and thinking, simple. Oh, that's lovely. Is that telling me there's a sale going on? And blue light special, I'm ready. And then finally we want to decide. We want to decide what we are going to do or not do in our lives. I remember I had a friend that was obese. He was morbidly obese. And there was a day. And I remember him just hitting that day and saying, I'm done. I am done being overweight. And he began to move heaven and earth. He was a guy, so of course the weight just peeled off rapidly. and it was truly miraculous. But I learned from, Tony Robbins teaches this, change is a split second. There just comes that day where you say, enough. I have always wanted to go to the Holy Land. Next year I will go to the Holy Land. I will move heaven and earth until I get there. Or you might say, this is it. This is it. I have always worked full-time in my life. It's time to change my job. My job is so stressful. It eats at me, and it eats at my family. I'm going to change. Change, those decisions that we make only take a split second. They don't take making lists and thinking about them and pondering them and then reevaluating tomorrow. Split second. That's all it takes. Remember, busy is not a matter of time, it's a matter of choice. Remember, you choose how you spend your time. Remember to prioritize your life and the things that you do so that you're not always swept up dinking around all your lists, but that you have your life prioritized. And then remember our D's, our principle of time management. We're going to de-junk. Today is the day that you begin to declutter your life. In fact, we're middle afternoon and you get kind of drowsy. We're going to read these together. Ready? De-junk. Today is the day you begin to declutter your life. A little louder now. Come on, ladies. You can do it. Dream and dream big. It's a wonderful day to begin your dreams list. Dare to try something new, to take a risk. Dare to do something that scares you. Distill. Today is the day you begin to distill your life down to a life of meaning. Decide. What are you going to do about it? Decide right now in this split second to choose. You can choose. You can choose to have time in your life. You can choose. It's very interesting. People say to me, you're very busy. You'd be surprised how much white space there is in my calendar. Because I learned that if I did not make different choices, my pace would kill me. I hope you don't have to get to that point, but that you may learn and take something that we've talked about today, perhaps, and that you can choose to have this wonderful life of meaning that is within your control, that has beautiful moments, and that you can be in charge of your life once again. I thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed that. Let's see here's my contact information. If you'd like more information or want dialogue or want to join me with a few thousand people on Facebook, come and join me on Facebook. And I appreciate your taking the time to take care of yourselves today. You've made wonderful choices today. Thank you very much.